hourly billing has created that fictitious
Yeah.
thought, and it really sets you up in a really bad environment to be able to justify to somebody why you should get paid more. Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today we're going to be going into a topic that is near and dear to my heart because my clients, my coaching clients, my fractional CFO clients, they all know how I feel about this, and I'm excited to have somebody who's going to be helping us talk about it. And you'll find out about what that is in just a moment. Our guest is Jonathan Stark. Jonathan Stark is a former software developer on a mission to rid the world of hourly billing. There you go, cat's out of the bag. He's the author of Hourly Billing is Nuts, the host of Ditching Hourly, and writes a daily newsletter on pricing for independent professionals. Now, it's no secret how I feel about hourly billing. At its root, it is the deepest ethical violation in the legal industry. Essentially, you have every reason to try to do work that does not need to be done by an attorney so you can bill more. You have every reason to spend more time researching something than is necessary to bill more. And I'm not saying that anybody here does that. I'm not pointing fingers. What I'm saying is that way of structuring your business is essentially giving you incentive to be unethical. And at the same time, it puts you or pivot or places your interests in exact opposition with your client's interests, where they want the cheapest bill, right? Like they want the least amount to be billed. And honestly, we're gonna dive into this with Jonathan. I'm excited to have this conversation. But honestly, when we start looking at business models and what you can produce, it's actually a really poor way of doing business from a business strategy standpoint as well, just as far as unlocking value with the services that you provide. So I'm sure we're gonna jump into this. Let's start with, hey, Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Sounds like we're very well aligned.
Perfect. So, Jonathan, what I like to do is at the beginning is basically just like give us a little glimpse into your journey. I mean, software developer to now, talking about hourly billing or not, or how hourly billing is crazy. How in the world did that happen? What, how'd you get into what you do and who do you serve? Just give us the broad strokes so that people know who it is, who's the guy behind the mic. And then I really want to focus most of our time on a little bit of time unpacking the problem, right? Really just setting up why hourly billing is bad, and then focusing primarily on the solution of, okay, so if we want to get away from it, what then? What do we do? So that's basically what I want to do here on the show. Take it away.
So the backstory is that I was a software developer at a firm in Atlanta, and I got promoted to be VP reporting to the owner. And when I got the promotion, I had to start doing one-on-ones with all the developers. We had about 10, 12 developers at the time. And so I saw all their salaries. And I was like, if I was going to hire someone, if we were going to grow the firm headcount-wise, I would want to hire someone like our most junior developer instead of someone who I would have naturally thought that was like my best developer. Because the best developer knew he was good. He could work anywhere he wanted. We were lucky to have him, but he was making $90,000, $100,000 a year, and we were billing him out at the same rate as someone who we were paying $45,000 a year. And the junior developer kept his clients perfectly happy. They didn't know the difference of how long something should take or whatever. So I was like, this doesn't make sense. If I was going to scale this up, I'd want to hire a whole bunch of people who aren't that good, juniors. And so I did all these gymnastics in my mind because I wanted to hire really good developers right out of the gate, or I wanted to take my juniors and train them so that they were really good. But what would happen if I did that is that they'd want more money, they'd be faster, so they'd be billing, our invoices would be smaller, they'd be billing fewer hours. And so my profits, no matter what I did, my profits would go down. And I was so confused by this. I tried to do some gymnastics in my mind for weeks. I was like, well, are really good developers, they can train the other ones and they offer other benefits. And I was really trying to convince myself that there was some other reason outside of the business model that would make sense to hire really good developers. And then one day it just hit me. It's because we bill by the hour. And if we didn't bill by the hour and we gave fixed prices for projects or whatever we were doing, all of a sudden you'd only want your most amazing developers because they're the ones that finish fast. They do it right the first time and they're just incredible to work with. And you wouldn't want a bunch of juniors kind of like bumping into each other trying to get things done, because that would just take forever. And that would every extra hour that it took to do a project would be us losing money instead of making money. That's where it came from.
That is so interesting, because that is one area that I've never focused on as for a reason of getting away from the billable hour. And it makes so much sense. So I really appreciate you just sharing your story, because it gives me just yet another angle to use and talk about this topic. But I guess in the legal industry, there's kind of been a fix to that, where you charge a higher hourly rate for somebody with more experience to kind of make up for that and to justify somebody getting a higher salary. But my argument is for attorneys, and that's who our audience is, right? My argument is that you should, like every attorney should be bringing in at least $1 million in revenue for the firm, right? Like the work that they're doing. You're going to pay them, $150,000, let's say with bonuses, $200,000, right? You want to get a 5x return on their work. It's got to cover marketing. It's got to cover overhead. It's got to also produce a profit margin for the business, right? So we look at the attorney, and I'd like to see every attorney be at $1 million or more, right? And that number is not arbitrary. It's well thought out. Don't really need to explain how we got there. But if we take the hourly billing that a typical firm does, and let's not focus on the number yet. Let's first focus on the hours. So if I have a full-time attorney on my staff and I'm not big law working them 80 hours a week, they come in at 9, they leave at 5, they have a typical 8-hour day, 5 days a week. That's 40 hours in the week, but they're not working 40 hours in the week. They're not billing 40 hours in the week. They take lunch, they go to the bathroom, they take water cooler breaks, they banter around the office. So we know we're losing 2 to 3 hours of productivity, right? So if we can expect them to be productive 5 hours a day, and it's not 52 weeks a year, because you lose 2 weeks to holidays, you lose 2 weeks to vacation, you lose a week to sick. So Take 5 weeks out. So we're talking about 5 hours a day. I'm going to do the math on the fly. 5 hours a day times 5 days a week times, what do we say? We lose 5 weeks, right? So times 47 weeks. You're talking about 1,175 billable hours a year, right? Let's do the math differently. Let's say 6 hours. So that's 1175. Let's say 6 times 5 times 47, because I'm going to get pushback. Oh, no, I could bill more than 1,100, right? 1,410 hours. Let's take 1,410. Now, let's say that your hourly rate, which pretty common hourly rate that attorneys tend to land on, is, let's say $350 an hour. Now, I think you should be higher, but let's just start there. That's where most people are. So times $350 an hour. That's $493,000 a year, right? Let's take 1,410 times $500 an hour. That's $705,000. You would have to unlock $1 million at 1,410 hours, which, by the way, it's a lot of hours that I don't really think is realistic, honestly, when we start to look at how humans work. But let's just say it was. You'd have to be billing $709 an hour to unlock $1 million in revenue from one attorney. Right?
Yeah, it puts an artificial limit.
Like the most specialists, like, highly specialized patent attorneys, there's very few attorneys that feel like they could charge $709 an hour. So if you even want to get to the place where you can make a decent profit margin on the staff that you're investing in, you have to have a way of unlocking. And I like to call it unlocking $1,000 an hour per attorney, right? Like That's what my focus with my clients is. Like, we have to get to a place where we're actually getting $1,000 an hour, and we're not billing $1,000 an hour, because we're going to talk about what the solution is. But that is like, the problem is all the things, right? Like the way you came about it with your software developer experience, and then the ethical dilemma between you and your client, the lack of ability to streamline and make smart business decisions around how you do the work, because you're motivated to have the attorney do the work, or the paralegal, the ones that are billing, and therefore you're not pushing stuff down to the lowest cost employee, which you should be doing, right? But you're not doing that because it goes against the business model. So to your point, like, you're making poor business decisions because your model makes you make those decisions. What if we could not only charge more for the time of our attorneys, but we could have them do less of the work that they're doing right now and have lower level people do it, and therefore they can handle more work. And we see that in play in personal injury firms. Yes, exactly. Pre-litigation personal injury attorney should be billing or bringing in somewhere between 2 and 3 million in revenue for the firm. Now, they'll have, at that level, they'll have 2 pods of paralegal, legal assistant. They'll have all the supports. But I mean, how much is that PI attorney getting paid? Even if they're getting 400,000, right? Or 500,000, and you're billing 2.5 million, there's still 2 million left. Now look at the support staff, right? What are they getting? 100,000 for a paralegal, 75,000 for a legal assistant, which are crazy numbers, right? Nobody's paying them that, but let's just use that, right? That's 350,000 for all the support. And now you still have all of that money left to cover your marketing, your sales. I mean, why do PI firms, why are they able to spend a ton of money on marketing? Like, why are they the ones that you see their TV ads everywhere? Because they unlocked a different business model that's not tied to the hourly rate. They do contingency-based billing, and it's 1/3 in pre-litigation. It's 1/3 of the money that they get you, right? So, yeah, they have to front the costs. I'm not saying it's an easy business. It's certainly fraught with its challenges, but at the end of the day, because they have an alternative billing model, they were able to unlock this leveraged power that's possible for a lawyer to bill, or a law firm to bill from one attorney. So, Jonathan, I did a lot of talking. You're the guy getting him here, right? But I really wanted to kind of set this up for our audience. And now I'm going to go back to you. Anything to add on the problem side of it? Like, are there more things to think about in just what's broken in the hourly billing model? And then I want to start focusing on, okay, we know what contingency looks like, but what are some other ways that we can solve or get away from this?
Right. So, I mean, you said it perfectly. The financial incentives are 180 degrees misaligned. The faster you finish, the better it is for the client, the worse it is for you. So your brain, subconsciously, your brain is not going to even think of anything. You're not deciding not to do stuff. You're probably not deciding to do things that are not in the client's best interest, but your brain will not even think of things creatively that would save you time. It goes against your whole business model. The other thing is, clients don't want your hours. They want the results. You win or it's free. There's a billboard right on 95 near where I live that has a local lawyer, and it says, you win or it's free. That's what they want in this particular example. They don't want your hours. They don't care how many hours that guy works. They want to win. So, and it takes all the risk. The lawyer's taking on all the risk, because if they don't win, then they're out all of the, employees and time that they spent on that particular case. So yeah, it's, and the other thing is that you perfectly laid out that by tying your revenue to hours worked, whether you have employees or not, you're placing an artificial ceiling on your income. It makes, I understand. I was about to say it makes no sense. I understand why people do it. It's extremely safe. That's why they do it. They're afraid to take the risk, but the risk is where you get the reward.
Yeah, and actually, there really isn't risk, right? Like, when we start to lay this out, when done right, you're not taking on risk, and you only have something to gain. But there's one other problem when we're setting this up. There's one other problem, which it's almost like the marketing problem, right? Like, so essentially what you're telling your client when you're billing by the hour is you're telling them that they're paying for your time. So you're in a way setting yourself up to not be able to charge more, because that's the correlation. Nobody wants to pay you $700 for one of your hours. But if they would understand that behind that hour is the rent of your office, the marketing that you do, the support staff that's behind and supporting it, right? If they would get that as a breakdown, like if every hour that you build, you would say, $300 for the attorney, $100 for use of the office, $50 for use of the copier, $50 for the receptionist answering the phone, right? Like if you had that breakdown, it would make more sense to them. Yes, they would go nuts and it would never work. But
Yeah,
the
it wouldn't
point
work.
is that is what the hour that you're billing represents, but you're charging for your hour. So in the client's mind, they're paying for your hour. And that's why people have this perception of like attorneys are like the highest paid people in the world. No, it's just that's the hourly billing has created that fictitious
Yeah.
thought, and it really sets you up in a really bad environment to be able to justify to somebody why you should get paid more.
Well, that's a perfect pivot because into the next part of the conversation, because even if you did itemize your costs, no one cares about your costs. They want to win or it's free. It's just to reuse that metaphor. And it's like, I don't care about, those are all you problems. I didn't pick your office for you. I didn't tell you need to use that copier. I didn't tell you to hire all those employees. I just want my matter resolved to my satisfaction. And for the lower price, the better. And that's what they care about. They're calling you because they believe that you can unlock, your clients are calling you, the lawyer, because they think that you can unlock some improvement in their life. The improvement in their life is the thing that they want to pay you for, not your copier or your paralegals or whatever.
Okay, so Jonathan, how does one go about moving away from this hourly billing model and adopting something new that is more aligned with the interests of their client, that is setting them up for success? And I mean, your billboard example, in a way, it sounds great, right? But in reality, for a lot of practice areas, that's not the way that you're going to be able to get clients, right? Like if you're an estate planning attorney saying you only pay if you win, doesn't make sense. You're not opposing anybody, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in criminal defense, you're not going to promise something you can't provide, right? Like just because I didn't get you acquitted doesn't mean we didn't win, right? Like I might have got you a better sentence. I might have got you better conditions. I might, like there's other ways of winning, but that becomes a place where all of a sudden we're like, so it's very much a personal injury line is my guess. Like that's a PI attorney. And
yes,
they were set up that way in the first place. Like every PI firm does that, right? Like nobody charges their client if they don't win. They only pay if they win.
Right.
So it's great. It's a great mantra. And I like it. But at the same time, I want to move away from that to the more like for run-of-the-mill businesses where contingency doesn't make sense. Right. There isn't a contingency model that makes sense for criminal defense, for estate planning, for bankruptcy, for I mean, we look at all of the gamut of stuff. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you can make an argument for bankruptcy. But anyway, for most of these, there's something else that's the solution. And I know of two. I know of flat fee or fixed pricing and subscription model.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that you also have a third, which is value pricing. So I want to kind of step through those three options. Is there more, or is that basically the menu of options that we
Let's stick with those. Yeah, that's plenty to fill the rest of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start with fixed fee, which I'm the most familiar with, and most attorneys are familiar with it to some extent because estate planning attorneys and criminal defense attorneys have been doing this for the longest time. As a matter of fact, I recently learned this. I didn't know. I have a client in Florida, and I recently learned that actually the Florida bar does not allow criminal defense attorneys to bill hourly. Like it's against their ethical rules, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that's great.
And I wish that more states had that. But it also like it in a way that, you know, that's that risk conversation, right? Like, because what if somebody's going to end up with, you know, with 7 days in court? Like, we need to plan for that, right? So you got to get really good about predicting what is going to happen based on the charge and based on their criminal record. That is going to be the level of work that's going to be put in. And you got to get really smart with how you price that so that you do get paid enough and you're not left holding the bag. Estate planning is another great example where, you know, like pretty much across the board, you go across the country and estate planning firms are charging a flat fee for a will or a flat fee for an estate plan with a trust. And I can tell you the price range from the clients that walk through my door. Anywhere from, for an estate plan with a trust, anywhere from $1,500 to $9,500 is essentially what people are charging. And what's crazy is that there's somebody charging $1,500 and there's somebody charging $9,500 and they are selling the exact same thing.
Is that true though? Are they selling the exact same thing?
Yes, absolutely.
There's no increased complication if you're doing estate planning for Jeff Bezos versus you or me?
Well, there may be, but the one selling it for $9,500 isn't selling to Jeff Bezos. They're selling that to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, right?
Okay.
And I have so this is a different realm, and we don't have to go down this path. I'm just gonna make this statement: pricing is arbitrary. It is 100% arbitrary, and if it's not tied to the hour, you get to make up a number. And you should start with a number that makes a lot of sense, and you can make more profit than you would on the hourly rate. But understand that you could start with a much higher number and test the market and back down off of it if you choose, right? Some people spend a lot of time getting to a higher number, and some people are smart enough to realize I can just start at any number I want. So if you're making this move or you're just starting your firm or whatever, you're trying to figure out what you should charge, don't think that you need to be the lowest kid on the block to make this work. You don't have to be the one charging $3,000, $4,500 for an estate plan. Start at $6,500, start at $7,500 and see what happens. How much easier would it be if you only needed to serve 10 clients a month to get to $7,500 instead of 50 in the case of the $1,500 one, right? Like it's a completely different business model.
So I agree that it's arbitrary. And in fact, for anybody who's clinging to hourly is arbitrary too. So hourly, you just picked some number out of the air to bill your hour out at. And when you give someone an estimate, they usually want an estimate. Well, how long do you think it's going to take? That's another random, like it's definitely not an exact number. I don't know if arbitrary is
you're almost always wrong, actually.
Right. It's in software, that's true. You're almost always wrong by half. So it might not be arbitrary, but it's totally made up. You're just pulling it out of thin air. The thing about, fixed pricing, or if we talk about value pricing specifically, is it is still arbitrary. You're still pulling a number out of thin air, so to speak. But in value pricing specifically, it's based on a number that the client pulled out of their head, pulled out of their own air. And then we base a price on an arbitrary number that they picked. So value pricing is the only one that considers what the client wants to pay or what it's worth to the client, where all of the other ones, even productized services, which is what you're describing, other kinds of fixed fee calculations, they're usually based on how much money I want to make, how much margin I want, how much work I think it's going to be. It's mostly all thinking about the seller. The seller's thinking about themselves and their needs. And value pricing is the only one that specifically is based on what the client wants and needs, what it's worth to them. So the fixed fee model, I've probably had a dozen lawyers on ditching hourly to talk about a variety of different approaches. Subscription is a very interesting one. Fixed fee is a very interesting one. And value pricing is just a different way to calculate a fixed fee. It's also fixed fee.
Interestingly, I've been using subscription a lot with my clients for litigation. So let's say the other side of estate planning, which is probate, right, or estate administration. The big argument there is, I can't do a flat fee because I don't know how much time it's going to take. I don't know how long it's going to take, and it could go on for 12 months. Anytime that I have something that could go on for a period of time, and it's an unknown number of hours, it's a great candidate for subscription. Because we can charge a much seemingly lower amount that over time adds up to a lot. And the client knows this is what it's going to cost me. I mean, if you look at all the buy now, pay later, like why is a firm why was it able to go public? And because people want to know when I'm buying something, it's just going to be $53 a month for the next 12 months. That's it, right? Yeah. So if you have a choice, you bring in a new client for estate administration for probate, and you can either say, hey, it's going to be, $350 an hour. We estimate it's going to take about 10 hours, which could or not or whatever. It's a 12-month process or whatever.
Yeah.
But we take a retainer of $5,000 because we need to cover ourselves if it goes beyond those 10 hours. So you need $5,000 up front. Or I can charge $2,500 up front and then $250 a month until it ends. And now it goes on for 12 months. I just was able to charge the $5,000 plus for the same thing, but to the client, it is a way better deal. I only have to come up with $2,500 now, and I'm only on the hook for $250 a month.
Right. It's more predictable how your cash flow, as the client has a more predictable cash flow situation in that model. So, and the other thing, the really important thing, if we want to focus on the seller side, is that I'm imagining that there are certain periods of time across that 12-month period that are much busier and ones that are much slower. And so you're smoothing out the kind of workload. Well, you're not smoothing out the workload. You're smoothing out the bill to the client, so their cash flow doesn't. They don't get a bill for $5,000 one month and then nothing for 2 months, and then another $5,000 or something. It feels more predictable. But the really cool thing about it for the seller is that you've taken hours out of the equation, and you're going to get that money on the first of the month every month, no matter how many hours you end up working that month. And it's fine. You're just basically you could think of it like a payment plan, but it disconnects your income from your time, which is the critical piece. So what that allows you to do is, like earlier when you're saying, maybe partners would hoard hours instead of passing them down to someone who should really be doing it, but they only charge $100 an hour, so that's less revenue for us. Now all of a sudden, it makes perfect sense for you to pass things off to people who are a better fit for whatever the thing is that needs to be done. And it doesn't turn into this timesheet thing where you're saying to the client, oh, well, this person had to do this much stuff and it was this many hours. And they can just forget about all that. And they just know the bill is going to be whatever it is every month. And when you're done, you're done.
Yeah, it also helps you for because it's more in alignment with your costs in serving the client.
Your cash.
You have salaries every month, right? You got to pay payroll. And if we don't have any billing for this client, it's not helping payroll. So
and you get paid in advance instead of in arrears.
Right. And now we know that if we get to, let's say we have our payroll's 20,000, we know that we need to have 100 clients in any part of this 12-month plan, and we've covered our payroll.
Yep.
Right. So it really helps to position your business from a cash flow perspective way better than
it's way better,
than other ways. I want to focus on the value-based pricing, because that's the one that we talk about the least. We have the least examples, and it's something that we hear about, but people are like, well, I don't understand how I could put that into practice. So can we take a practice area on law where we can use as an example and just kind of lay out what this might look like?
Sure. Do you want to suggest one? I'm not a real legal expert.
Okay, let's use business litigation.
Business litigation.
So somebody is either representing a plaintiff or a defendant, and there's money on the line.
Okay. So
that's the easiest tee up for you.
Okay. So value pricing works best. A few things you can, let me start over. Value pricing can work really for anyone, but it's only worth doing in certain situations. It's only going to increase your fees and your margins in certain situations. In other situations, it'd be roughly the same as if you calculated cost plus or some other way. So the situation needs to be a situation where there is a project. So in the software world, a project means there's going to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. You know what the success state is. You know when it's done. The software launches, the app works. Sounds like in this model, you'd know when the trial is over or whatever.
Correct.
Whatever phase you're in. There might be milestones, maybe, I don't know, gets sent up to a higher court or something. But if you can define a phase, perhaps not exactly how much work is going to be in that phase, but you can tell when you're done with that phase. I would take the smallest phase possible, and the thing about value pricing is you want clients who greatly value the outcome. So there needs to be a lot of money on the table in this case. The more money on the table, the more you can make, basically. And this is key. They need to see you as their best choice. You need to be the go-to person for this thing. Otherwise, they'll just find someone cheaper. So if you've got those things, they want it really bad, there's a lot of money on the line, and you're the go-to person for this particular kind of thing, then I would work backwards from what it's worth to them. So like, give me an idea. Give me a scenario so it's not totally hypothetical.
Let's say it's a $2 million potential liability on the line.
Okay, so my client is potentially going to lose $2 million. Is that what you mean?
Or has $2 million to gain, one or the other.
Well, let's pick one.
Or depending on whether you're the plaintiff or the defendant.
I guess it doesn't matter. So, all right. So let's say we're potentially going to lose $2 million. If that's the that, like, they don't want to spend more than, let's say they're going to gain, let's say we're going to gain $2 million. That's more similar to software. So they're going to gain $2 million at the end of this. Well, they don't want to pay you more than $2 million, right? Like, that would negate anything, and it would make no sense. And you can't guarantee it anyway, because there are a lot of things that could happen. So you need to discount for uncertainty so that both parties are making a profit and you can credibly claim to contribute to that outcome. So I'll unpack that because that was dense. So what I would normally do is say, okay, there's $2 million on the table. I would divide that by 10, so we get 200,000. So 200,000 would mean if they paid you $200,000 for a chance at that 2 million, that would be pretty reasonable if you're the go-to person. Because it's not, I'm not definitely going to get you the 2 million, but I can engage with you in a particular way that will cost $200,000. And then you would define a scope of involvement for that $200,000 price point. So you'd say, well, we do this, we do that, the other. And even if there was a lot of surprises, I'd still be really happy getting $200,000 for that level of involvement. But I wouldn't just give them an ultimatum, it's $200,000 or nothing. I'd also give them maybe 440,000 around there, like 2.2, 22% of the 2 million. And I'd say at this level, we'll give you everything from the first level, but we'll also bring more of our team to bear, or we'll also do these other things, or we'll do more research, or we'll do other things that we wouldn't want PIs on the case. I don't know what you would need to do, but it would be a deeper level of engagement, and you're taking more cost onto your plate. You're taking more risk, but you're decreasing their risk. You're making it more likely that they're going to get the $2 million, or for $1 million, we'll go nuts. This will be my personal main thing that I'm focused on. I won't, I'll bring the whole team, but I will be in every single meeting and I'll completely pay attention to this. This is my main thing. I'm not taking on any other clients until this is done. And it's $1 million. That's going to maximize your odds of winning. And you can, if you want that, that's the option for you. So if you base your prices, it's basically I scope last. So you find out the value to them. In this case, it's easy. It's a $2 million potential win. And you set three prices, 10%, 22%, and 50% of the value. And then you decide what you will do at each one of those levels to move the needle for the client.
I wonder if, and because I was thinking, and I don't know how you position the structure of the pricing, but I wonder if you can marry this value pricing model with my subscription model, where you now project out, hey, this is likely to take 12 months or 18 months, right? But if it takes longer, it probably means more work. And if it takes shorter, it probably means less work. So if we now take these three prices and just figure out what it should be per month based on what we think it's going to take in length of time, now if it takes less time, the client wins. If it takes more time, we win. I mean, we always win, because it's the length of time is usually indicative of how much work needed to go into it. If it goes on longer, it's because somebody's dragging their feet, or there's a lot of fighting back and forth, which means we're spending a lot more time in court. We're spending a lot more time answering things and preparing things and stuff like that. So I almost feel like if you just give this fixed price, you're still leaving this contingency. Yes, we're getting paid handsomely for it, right? But we're also leaving this contingency of like there could be a lot more work that ends up eating into the profits. So when I marry this with the subscription, it then it motivates the client to not dig their heels in and make problems just for the sake of making problems, right? Like, let's get to the finish line. If we have a good solution on the table, like let's sign and be out of here, rather than them carrying on for longer. So if they recognize, hey, if we drag this out another 3 months, that's going to be another $75,000. That also helps to make things happen. So
that's an interesting
the three tiers.
Yep. You could do that. You could value price a subscription. It would be unusual in my experience. I haven't seen a lot of people do that. And you certainly could. But the thing that you're doing is like you're clinching up on the eating into the profits thing. But so there's something I want to emphasize or even go deeper into in the model when you're pricing in reverse. So you're scoping last. So they've got this $2 million number. You set three prices. Only then do you decide what you're going to commit to doing for those numbers. And you would do something that you would be fist pumpingly happy to do for $200,000. Something you'd probably do for $100,000. Knowing that there are going to be surprises. Every single project has surprises. It happens in every industry, everywhere. And it doesn't matter, because you have so much margin. You have 100% margin. So you can be off by a fair amount, and you're never losing money. Your effective hourly rate will still be over $1,000. So the thing I want to emphasize is you wouldn't put in like $200,000 of hours into that first model. If we're going to use hours to make the point, you'd only put $100,000 of time and materials into the $200,000 price point, maybe less, so that when the inevitable happens, somebody gets really cranky and they're really fighting needlessly or whatever, you don't care. You just don't care. The other thing is, when you work in this way, your profits are probably so much higher than you've ever experienced with hourly that you can be really picky about who you work with. And so your example is a good example of the client digging in their heels and getting stubborn and causing a lot of unnecessary back and forth because they're not taking your advice. You can be really picky about working with people like that, and sniff them out in advance. I mean, it's certainly true with software developers. You can tell when someone is going to be problematic way in advance. They're just like that kind of a person. So, yes, you could probably marry those two things. I can't think of an example where I've seen it done, but in theory, that would work.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, one of the criteria that you said to using value pricing is that you have to be somebody that they desire, right? Like they have to want to work with you for this to work. And I think that if you position this as a subscription, that might be enough to make you desirable, even
Yes.
from just the structure of how they're paying it.
Right.
Well, it's because they might have to come up with a much bigger retainer somewhere else. They might have to, they might have, a projection of hours that's astronomical. Like there's so many unknowns. People, I think we underestimate human psychology so extensively. As far as like people don't like risk. And the same way that you have that you as a business owner, you the listener, as a business owner have pushback on going away from hourly billing because of the safety of it, your clients are going to be willing to pay twice as much to know what it's going to cost them in advance than to have it open-ended, where they've heard horror stories from other people as to how big the bill was,
right,
because of the clock is running.
One of the things I teach people who are first want to dip their toes into this, they're not ready for value pricing. They can't get there yet. But I say, if you do nothing else, the next time you send an estimate, an hourly estimate to someone, give them two options. Say, well, I think it'll be 100 hours at, our hourly rate, and that works out to $10,000. Or I'll give you a fixed price of $18,500. And you will be shocked how many people take the fixed price, because it's almost double, because they have heard the horror stories. They know that $10,000 estimate's probably wrong, and it's probably not high, it's probably low. So they can look at this and they know what the thing I love about this is it reveals who's taking the risk. It puts it right in black and white. So you're basically saying, client, do you want to take all the risk? Because the risk doesn't go away. You're just pushing it onto the client when you bill by the hour. Do you want to take all the risk that I'm an excellent estimator and then I'm going to be excellent at controlling your scope creep and all of these other things? Or would you rather know that it's going to be $18,500 and that's the price? And obviously, people don't like buying things. In fact, it's hard to think of an example where anybody ever buys anything without knowing the price first. You always, right? You always
imagine if you went shopping on Amazon.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'll use an item. I just bought my son football gloves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine I went on Amazon and I went to buy football gloves and it says, price will be revealed after delivery.
Oh, how about this? The price will tell you the price of the house after you've moved in and lived there for a year.
Right. Yeah.
That's more like a software project because they go on for a long time. And then by then it's way too late. What are you going to do?
Or in this case, the perfect example is the gloves will cost you $10 for every day it takes to get to your house.
Yeah. Right. Imagine if you went to Amazon and football gloves were $20 an hour. Well, how many hours is it going to take? There's a great cartoon. You can probably, not cartoon, sketch on YouTube of a guy that goes into a sandwich shop, orders a pulled pork sandwich, and says how much it'll be. And they say $60 an hour. And he's like, well, how long is it going to take? And they're like, I don't know. Sometimes it takes a long time. Anyway, it's hilarious. Search for pulled pork sandwich hourly billing. It's funny.
The bottom line is that these alternative billing models, they really work. And
yeah, they do.
The more that you get good at understanding how to position it, and positioning it side by side with hourly is genius. Even though it looks like less hourly, I mean, it's crazy, but like people really want that consistency. Even with subscriptions, right? Like how many people go to their utility company and say, hey, can you put me on budget billing? You're paying the same amount throughout the whole year, but you want the exact same monthly amount every month so that it's predictable, so that you know what's happening. So like when you offer subscription pricing for something that's going to happen over a period of time, it creates something that is more desirable as a product, and you are no longer, this is the key, you're no longer competing with anybody else. It removes the competition because they're not looking at who's going to be the better attorney anymore. They're looking at which is going to be the better deal I want to get into, and nobody else is offering it.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't like surprises. They don't like surprise bills. They hate it.
Yeah. All right. This is a great conversation. We're out of time, so we'll wrap it up here. But Jonathan, really appreciate you being here. When I close out every episode, there's two things that I ask of you. So we'll just run through that real quick. Number one parting piece of advice or wisdom for our listeners. Number two, how can people take the next steps in connecting with you, learning more about you, or anything you want to share with them that they can, move forward with the conversation we started here,
Sure.
and perhaps learn a little bit more about how to improve their billing model in their law firm.
Well, the first recommendation is I would say try that last thing that we talked about. Next time, if you really want to dabble and you're currently doing hourly on a fairly small matter, not tons of hours, do that hourly estimate and then multiply it by 0.85 and tack that on for a fixed price. It's the easiest thing. You'll be shocked how many people pick the higher price. And if you're actually good at what you do, you can do it much faster than you probably would have and make a ton of money, like have real profit, totally disconnected from time. So that's a great first step. And then to get in touch with me, just Google for the Ditching Hourly Guy. My website will come up. I have something called the Value Pricing Bootcamp. You can go to valuepricingbootcamp.com if you want to learn more about value pricing specifically. But my daily newsletter, every day I sent out a short tip or trick or insight about pricing for professionals. So you can jump on there on my website.
Awesome. Jonathan, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Really great conversation. And I got to really dive in deep into a topic that I love,
Right.
or I hate. I don't know. Like the topic, I hate the practice. Right.
Yes.
But really gave us an opportunity to talk about it. So really appreciate you coming here and doing that, folks. If you're busy at the time you're listening to this, you're in the shower, driving your kids to school, out for a run, whatever it is, you do not need to stop and take notes for that website. We've got you covered. It's in the resources section in the show notes of this episode, which usually is in the podcast player or on the YouTube channel that you're currently engaged with. Or you can go to profitwithlaw.com. Every episode is there. And we're over 500 episodes in. So there's a ton of stuff to binge on here. We've had amazing experts and guests come through and great conversations. This is just another example of it. So you want to make sure that if you're new to the show, that you go and just look through the archives, find some that catch your attention and dive in and take a listen, because there's so much to learn, so much you can implement. And really, it could be overwhelming. So for every show that you listen to, just choose one thing to implement in your business or in your life. And if you just do that consistently, you're going to significantly up level, and you're gonna really go places. If you want to look at what it might look like to work with us here at Profit with Law, it all starts with a strategy session. We do about 15 of these a month. It's absolutely free, and you can go to profitwithlaw.com/strategy session to book that call. And what we do is we give you a ton of clarity around your growth. So we'll help you identify what it is that you want to create in the next 12 months, what are the obstacles that are going to prevent you from doing that, and then how to overcome those. When you leave that call, you will feel so much more in control of your future than you are right now, and it will unlock that next level of success for you. And of course, if you want to explore us supporting you in that process, that'll be offered to you at the end of the call. So book that at profitwithlaw.com/strategy session. And we appreciate you being here with us, tuning in to the Profit with Law podcast. We will see you next Thursday when we release a new episode. Take care. Bye for now.